Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another segment here on Project Purpose. For those of you who are new, we cover topics that relate to mental health, mental wellness, and education on a week-by-week basis. And today's topic of discussion is mental wellness. And on the conversation on mental wellness this week, I want to talk about the habits that I had to unlearn in order to protect my peace. And I think that this is really, really important because a lot of us go through our days, go through our lives feeling anxious, feeling self-conscious, feeling worried, stressed, feeling all sorts of things that are not necessarily in alignment with them being able to protect their peace. A lot of people don't even know what peace feels like. And so because my peace has always been like my paramount priority, like I'm very big on making sure that I have mental clarity, that I have this sense of alignment, and having those things be priority for me, it means that my behavior, my energy is really in alignment with the things that I need to do point in time that protect my peace. And those are going to be different things for different people depending on their stage and phase in life. I have a lot more agency by ways of how I protect my peace, but I think that there is some groundwork that needs to be done because a lot of us are born into some version of chaos, right? A lot of us have experienced some version of chaos and we normalize that chaos, and in normalizing that chaos, you really detract from your ability to feel at peace and to protect your peace. And so given the fact that I was born into my own version of chaos, when I started on my journey of wellness and really started to think about, well, what do I need in order to maintain this mind, body, spiritual alignment? And a lot of that started to do with like my nutrition. It had to do with my spiritual life. It had to do with my fitness. It had to do with my hobbies and my interests and where I put my time and attention. And last but not least, it had to do with the way that I positioned myself in relation to others. And I needed to be very cognizant that I had to drive my own decision making or my own beliefs and values around how I felt about myself in relation to others. And I couldn't allow myself to internalize other people's positionings, because a lot of people, they position themselves for or against you in alignment with their own personal orientation. And not a lot of people are oriented from a place of peace. A lot of them are oriented from a place of stress, anxiety, worry, of feeling constant inner conflict. And so that is something that they can obviously project on you with the assumptions, beliefs, values that they project onto you. And so here are some things that I had to learn to protect my peace that if you want to put it into practice, I think it could be helpful to anyone if they start to leverage some of these practices. And so the first thing that I had to learn to protect my peace is that not everyone's opinions about you are about you. And this one is really important because I grew up in a lot of different communities where everyone had this picture of me and they expected me to align to that picture. And so I think that when you grow up with the same people, and since I was 9, there were certain communities that I circulated through up until my early 20s, and then I made the decision to distance myself from those communities. But it was very, very hard for me to grow into my own sense of individuality, having to battle and come up against these people's inner beliefs about me. It could have been an inner belief established because of things that I did when I was a child, because of things that I said, because of the ways that I carried myself at one point in time. They don't give you the opportunity to grow beyond that frame. And it's important that you don't find yourself really pushing against a wall, feeling helpless because people don't want to see the evolution in you. And so because my focus has always been on growth, learning, and personal evolution, personal development, oftentimes what it translates as, if your focus is on growing, that you have to grow beyond the people who have a limited belief about you. And whether or not those limited beliefs are informed by the things that you've done or not, or the things that you've said or not, your growth cannot be limited by the limited ideals that people carry about you. And so I've learned that in order for me to protect my peace, if it is the case that I've grown beyond a certain set of behaviors, or I've grown beyond a certain set of expectations that I used to hold myself accountable to, but now I don't feel inclined to hold myself accountable to those expectations. And a lot of that came from maturing, growing up and finding my own identity as an adult, but being in communities where they really still saw me as a child. And my taking a stand, making a position, articulating my point of view, it was hard for them to respect it because they were still looking at me from this frame of being a child. And so the way that I dealt with that is I focused on protecting my peace, and protecting my peace was giving maybe some room for forgiveness for people who had a really hard time seeing me the way that I was, the way that I was evolving in those places and in those stages of my life. But then also after a certain point, cutting out the people who couldn't evolve, who couldn't adapt their perspectives. I think that it's really important that we give ourselves grace in that this life is going to involve a lot of growing pains, a lot of learning pains. And if your focus is on evolution, you're gonna make mistakes. And I have obviously made my own fair share of mistakes in my life, but that doesn't mean that I give anyone the right to hold me to the fire for an indefinite period of time, right? Just because I did something once when I was 10 doesn't mean that that's the same version of me that you're going to get when I'm 18 or when I'm 22 or when I'm 23, and that that's the only way that you can view me. And the issues with your lens, the issue with your inability to adapt your lens to accommodate the person that I'm evolving into. And so I think that it's really important that you protect your peace and that you don't hold yourself to the responsibility of defending who you are to people who don't want to see you for how you see yourself. And I think that it's really an interesting shift because a lot of people hold power over you in the impressions and in the beliefs that they have about you. And it's only when you break away from those individuals that you recognize, you know, my personal power was never held in the gaze of others. My personal power is held in my own gaze, but how I manage that power is I manage the people that I interact with. I manage the energy that I distribute. I manage the energy that I keep to myself. So those are the first things that I learned, is that when your focus is on growth, learning, and evolution, it sometimes does mean you're growing away from the people and places and situations that cannot adapt their view of you as you grow and adapt in this thing called life. And so the next thing that I had to learn as I was focusing on this path of inner peace and of growth and of protecting my peace is that respect is a two-way street. And this is something that might be a bit of a surprise to think about. Well, how does my idea of reciprocal respect protect my peace? Like, how do those things go together? But they go together because a lot of us have been taught to blindly respect authority, even if that authority figure is being diminishing, is being dismissive, is being degrading, like they're being rude to you. And so because of that sort of ideal or the value that you hold about authority, because you were taught to respect your elders, because you were taught to behave in a certain way, in the face of authority, you can really misrepresent yourself in situations, or like fail to defend yourself, or fail to communicate, or to be in alignment in the way that you address specific situations, because life has made us complacent in the fact that respect is not just something we give, it's something that we can expect. And there is a baseline respect that I expect from every situation that I'm in. And I am someone who believes that respect is something that I can give regardless of the situations that I'm in, regardless of the dynamic that I have. My understanding of respect, like the operative, how respect translates, doesn't mean that I'm bending over backwards. I think a lot of people think that respect means that you lose yourself in trying to gain the accolades or the favor of people around you. And I think that no, like I think reciprocal respect is an exchange that takes place from a place of honoring yourself first. I can respect the people around me because of the ways that I show myself respect and how I maintain the respect with people around me. How that translates is that I'm never going to do something that makes me feel like I'm stepping out of alignment with my own character or out of alignment with my own sense of self-respect. And I think sometimes what people will do is, in trying to demonstrate respect to others, it is in and of itself, those acts and those behaviors are a demonstration of a lack of respect for self. And so for me, there always needs to be that calibration. There always needs to be that balance. The ways that I portray respect are always going to be ways that I walk away feeling like, hey, I respect myself in that moment. I'm never going to give respect by taking away from the respect that I have for myself. And I think a lot of people are often comfortable making those concessions and not realizing that when you make those concessions, you really do pit a war against your own peace, because how can you feel at peace? How can you feel comfortable with making a decision that takes away from your own personal sense of self-respect for the sake of showing respect to someone else? And I don't think that you ever want to value a relationship so much that you're comfortable with the idea of eating into your own sense of self-respect in order for them to feel respected. And if someone needs to feel respected in a way where it does degrade you and it does take away from your own personal sense of self-respect, you need to really think about those relationships, those dynamics, and recognize that they're toxic, because any relationship that feeds off of you not respecting yourself or you losing your respect for yourself is probably not a relationship you want to maintain to begin with. And then last but not least, how I protect my peace is acceptance. It's really this practice of acceptance, and the practice of acceptance is also a practice of non-attachment. And non-attachment doesn't mean that I don't value things, that I don't hold things close to my heart, but it does mean that I take what the present situation is telling me and I accept it for what it is. And even if that acceptance comes with a little bit of disappointment, or comes with a little bit of frustration, or a little bit of feeling a little bit tired with the whole process, or not really understanding where things are going, but I accept things for what they are, and I practice with non-attachment in that things don't need to be my way for them to be the way that they are going to be, and for me to accept that. And I'm not attached to an idea of how things are supposed to go to such an extent that I'm going to be a self-saboteur in how things are evolving, because I recognize that there is a difference between the reality that I want, the reality that I exist in, and the reality that I'm trying to bring into fruition. And a lot of us are so stuck in our heads, so stuck in the reality that we want to bring into fruition, that we actually end up hurting the reality that exists right now, that we can step into, that we can navigate consciously and intentionally in a way that we bring the desired reality sort of closer, but while recognizing that nothing that we envision is necessarily going to be an exact apples to apples comparison of how it translates. It's about catching the feeling, catching the essence of the thing that we envision. And I think so often we have this very specific picture of what it is that we want and how it's supposed to translate, that we could find that we have attracted that into our lives, but because it's not exactly an apples to apples comparison of what we've envisioned, because we're too busy focusing on the minutia and not the essence of what has been brought into our lives, then we can be really very self-destructive with it. And I've seen a lot of people lose out on very great opportunities, great relationships, great experiences because things aren't translating exactly the way that they're supposed to. So those are 3 areas that I had to unlearn, like the baseline ways that I addressed them. I had to unlearn some of the beliefs that I had that hindered my ability to protect my peace because of the way that I was navigating. And those are the perspectives that I've taken on. So these are the beliefs that I have now in lieu of the beliefs that I had that really hindered on my ability to be at peace with situations that were beyond my realm of control, be at peace with opinions and with communities where it was hurting my ability to feel like I was growing and evolving. I was growing and evolving against people's perceptions, the limited beliefs that people had of me. And also just as we meander and figure out this thing called life, respecting ourselves in the process, maintaining that alignment in the process, and recognizing that anything we give to others, if it creates misalignment in ourselves, is probably not the thing that we want to give. That was the topic for today. That was it, but definitely not all. Now, before letting you go, I'd be remiss if I didn't let you know that we do host live events twice a month, every month for the foreseeable future on our website. So definitely take a look at that. We also do have parent-child workshops that focus on developing grit, resilience, and perseverance in children. We have 4 core workshops that I would love for you to check out as well. And just join our community. Join our community of game changers and be the change that you want to see, allowing us a very small role to play in your journey. So that was it for today, but definitely not all. We are on the road to 1K, so definitely give us a follow if you've made it this far, and we look forward to chatting with all of you very soon. We'll talk to you later.